Imagine being able to give input on your favorite hip-hop artist's next hit song. Think about it, sitting in the studio with A Boogie to the Hoodie and telling him bar for bar what verb went best with which noun. Or riding around the block with Rick Ross and telling him which Maybach went best with his new outfit. Giving input in a public forum would be pretty dope, wouldn't it? For those that don't know, the Brea Tar Pits are going through some amazing changes. I am here with the Natural History Museum and the Brea Tar Pits. We're going to listen to 3 design firms present their ideas of how they're going to reimagine the tar pits, and us, the public, get to make input. And you know me, with my background in civil engineering, I got a special affinity for this one. Let's check it out. Science, 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 science. Snacks.
I don't need to tell you how Hancock Park and the Miracle Mile are becoming a world-class destination for art, culture, science, and entertainment. With the new Academy Museum of Motion Pictures set to open next year, the plans for a new LACMA building, and a master planning process just beginning at Brea Tar Pits. Ultimately, all of this will make an incredibly wonderful neighborhood an even more exciting place to live. The Tar Pits has been designated as a national natural landmark. But unlike other landmarks like Stonehenge in England or Lascaux Caves in France, we are surrounded by a vital and active neighborhood and city with multiple forms of engagement in the park, ranging from dog walking, soccer, boot camp, picnicking, and yes, rolling down the museum's hills.
Yeah.
This unique dynamic is central to our approach to the master plan process and to the selection of these 3 finalist architectural teams. Today, this community presentation of early conceptual approaches by the creative teams marks the kickoff of the final stage of a competition to select a master plan designer. The plans you are about to see here are in no way final. Instead, these renderings and drawings illustrate how each of these teams is thinking about the opportunities and challenges of the site, its buildings, and the surrounding context. Actual design will only begin after we have selected a single team and move through a comprehensive research and engagement process. The first team is Dorte Mandrup. Their team includes landscape architect Martha Schwartz Partners, visual designers Contrapunct, LA-based executive architects Gruen Associates, and engineering firm Arup. Please join me in welcoming Dorte Mandrup Poulsen, Marcus Yach, Deborah Jared, and Aaron McConaughey.
We are very happy to have been given the chance to work with Brea. It's an honor to be trusted with this truly remarkable place. The Page Museum, as it is today, is a very clear and simple building. It's consisting of a plinth that contains the exhibitions and has this inner introverted courtyard. Our goal is to create an open and inviting new living room in the park and to create a project that amplifies the cross-pollination between park and museum, reflecting the living laboratory the park and building actually is. By working 3-dimensionally with the park, we will create a new natural entrance level that overviews the park and is visible from all sides.
In order to be able to serve the neighborhood and the wider community, has to fulfill a variety of different functions. And in our experience, it is very important to provide a variety of different program areas, a variety of different spaces, a variety of different activities. So people do have a choice in terms of where and what would they like to do within the park. The existing landscape was so intensive of its kind of CO2 emissions during its constructions that it will never become carbon neutral. However, if we have a smarter and more intelligent approach towards the design, we found out that after 5 years, we can make the new park carbon neutral. So the landscape and the planting can be utilized to sequester carbon out of the air for the rest of its lifetime.
We actually have a central core that connects all the science work and also makes it possible for the scientists and the researchers to interact with the public on all floors. We also want to create a public access to the roof and to the top bar by bypassing the ticketing in an elevator and stair core. At nighttime, the floor will be much more present than the halo, and you'll have this feeling of exhibition space and covered outdoor space.
What carbon we use to create the construction, we will sequester that carbon back into the earth. A similar approach on water, if it falls on the site, it should be staying on the site to be useful. The tar sands are so sticky that we really can't get it back down into the aquifer. So what we want to do is we want to take advantage of the plantings that Marcus is going to be putting into the landscape to capture that water, use it in order to grow the plants, and where we have those sort of large-scale El Nino events or things like that, that we would grab it, store it, and then reuse it during the dry months on the property.
DSNR is known in Los Angeles for their design of the Broad Museum on Grand Avenue. Other DSNR projects include New York City's High Line, which repurposed a 1.5-mile-long elevated train track into a park. Their team includes landscape architects Raina Creek, urban theorist Walter Hood, engineering firm Arup, and wayfinding firm 2x4. Please join me in welcoming Liz Diller, Walter Hood, and Paul Kephart to the stage.
Living in cities as urbanites, we rarely are conscious of the geological forces that shape the ground that we walk on or drive on. The ground for us in this project is the protagonist. It has a lot of stories to tell, and our approach aims to heighten awareness about the past and the future, awareness of the natural history held underfoot, as well as the direct impact that humans have on our environmental futures.
Page Museum, the pavilions, they all come to a park, and over time, in the 21st century, I think the question we have to ask ourselves, what is a park? You know, is it a green sward for a lot of activities, or should it be about place? Should it be about landscape? Should it be about life? Should it be about evolution? With this notion of this indexing, we're really interested in what's under the ground. And if anyone done archaeology, you have to create an index. And this way of indexing allows you to sort of locate things that you can't see, and then actually go back and find them or reassemble them in different ways. We've been very interested in this idea of climate and weather, and how do we actually start creating what we're calling these ecotones, so that if you were to get rid of all of these lines, you would actually have an enmeshed landscape where these thresholds and these intersections start to define plant communities. And these plant communities is about how we actually are going to survive in this landscape. And from that, you might get a completely otherness landscape, one that looks really different than the ones we're used to living, but this might be our future landscape. And what we're interested in is how we're going to adapt to this landscape, not the opposite.
The archive we imagine as this cube, architectural cube, that holds all the contents of the museum in dense storage, but also creates an interface on its outer surface with the public. What replaces the berms are these landscaped plates that are like petals of a flower, and they're all interdependent, and they produce a kind of seismic stability for the whole building. You come in, and then there is this suspended component, which holds all the goods. And as you go into the museum, digital technology will also be part of it, and allow the audience to sort of go deeper, dig deeper. Anywhere from research scientists can learn as much as a student and a young kid.
Marian Weiss and Michael Manfredi, founders and principals of the firm, have worked on projects that include the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, the Museum of the Earth, and the renowned Olympic Sculpture Park in Seattle. Their team includes Patrick Armacost, a principal in the firm, brand and graphics designer Michael Beirut, paleobotanist Dr. Carol G., artist and naturalist Mark Dion, and LA-based experiential designer Karen Fong of Imaginary Forces. Please join me in welcoming Marian Weiss and Michael Manfredi to the stage.
It has been a huge pleasure to hear these narratives from
our two colleague teams and understand that it's a huge honor for us to be here as part of this incredible moment to reimagine what the La Brea Tar Pits can be. I think it's interesting to think about where this is. It's an improbable place for something so ancient to be. Los Angeles is a city that has been reinventing its future since the beginning of its time. Interesting to think that this was a site that was about extraction, and that extraction was about something that we know is no longer sustainable. But from that came another form of abstraction, and that extraction was one where our understanding of this amazing site and our history, our Pleistocene history and climate change within its ice age, has ended up with these artifacts that are here and only here. What if a park really can create new ecologies and welcome an entire community? What would that look like? In fact, in this case, if climate change and flooding could be embraced into the narrative of the temporal and the kind of sensational. And how could that, in fact, experience of bringing in new ecologies create and welcome a place that is for the whole community? Indeed, though, it's really about bringing the lenses of the different scales, the different kinds of ecologies and sciences at every scale into focus, and then recognizing that the landscape is intrinsic to what will bring this to life. We're thinking about now, of course, 400 new trees amplifying what is there, expanding the grass slopes, they're so fantastic, and actually exemplifying a set of new urban ecologies that are complemented by amplifying the number of access points and giving them identity, legibility, and drama.
What if along Wilshire it became much more of a kind of urban street that was a pleasure to walk along? Maybe by peeking into the park, we could make the experience much more interesting. If we look at the current condition, it's nice, but again, unshaded, very, very bleak. So how do we provide shade? How do we kind of think of this as an urban situation, even for someone who might not be interested in going into the renovated Page Museum? What if we did underground parking that, with time, as we all know, cars will disappear, could become storage areas?
So we thought that it would be so important to think about what it's like to actually move through this setting and what it is that we're bringing together all at once. So rather than doing a fly through, we take you through maybe a day of invention.
It is a final recap after hearing all those three amazing presentations. I'm with Laura. How you doing? All right, what did you think about the presentations from all the design firms today?
I really liked it. I liked a lot of the commonalities they had, looking into the sustainability of the things into the future. And I also like that they all very much acknowledge that this is still very early on in the conception, and they really need to still talk with how to actually make all of these collection spaces work for us moving forward towards the future. But it's just very exciting to be part of the process at this early stage, but to be able to look towards where it's going to be in the future.
Yeah, what was your favorite?
Oh, I can't pick a favorite.
Yes, you can. That's why we're here. This is input. It's all this public input, right?
I'm that horrible person that I really want to just like take pieces of everything and just kind of mash them back together to make the perfect one. So
I know there were bits and pieces of everything that I would like to incorporate, but my personal favorite was the third presentation from Weiss and Freedy. I liked the concept of that science walk, right? And then the open concept. Yeah, exactly. Wow. 3 amazing presentations from 3 uniquely different design firms. It was incredible seeing the inspiration behind each of their designs and their plans for re-envisioning, rethinking, and revitalizing the La Brea Tar Pits, Page Museum, and Hancock Park. This project is going to be incredible for the community and will take people's experience at the La Brea Tar Pits to a whole nother level. I'm the Hip Hop MD. This is Hip Hop Science. I wonder how I can re-envision, rethink, and revitalize the world of science.